this proposed legislation, which is so broadly drawn that beloved community events like high school dances, parades, even Shakespeare in the Park could fall under criminal investigation, and I am therefore voting no on this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Anyone else have any comments? Senator Hughes, you're recognized to close. And
thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the bill we debated yesterday and had a lot of discussion about, I do want to clarify a couple things that came up about whether the penal code already addresses this conduct. There was discussion about section 43.24, and that section by definition does not cover performances of the kind we're dealing with. Section 43.24 protects minors from harmful material. And in the subchapter B that contains this, material is defined by focus on tangible objects such as printed material. It does not speak to the actions of individuals or performances. In fact, the subchapter has a second definite section where they define performance, but it is not covered in that section of the penal code. So to be clear, these kind of sexual performances in front of children are not currently covered by our law. And beyond that, we had a good discussion about vagueness, about giving people notice. It is necessary for us to make sure the law is clear. And again, lest there be any confusion, this bill is about protecting minors. This bill says that minors should not be exposed to sexual performances. I hope we can all agree on that, and I move final passage.
One moment, members. Senator Middleton, for what purpose?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I move to reduce the bill author's close on this bill to writing and be placed in the journal.
Any objection? Hearing none.
Thank you.
Motion is adopted. You're recognized on final.
Mr. President, I move final passage.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Bardwell, Blanco.
20 ayes and 11 nays. The bill is finally passed. Thank you.
Senate Bill 1601, relating to prohibiting municipal libraries that host certain events from receiving state funding.
And Senator Johnson was up first, and then I'll come to you. Senator Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, it's a statement on the bill, but also on our votes. I want to be clear that a vote cast against this bill is not a vote cast for anything. We're not advocating for anything in any library or not in any library. Speaking personally, and probably for many of my colleagues, we're concerned about the drafting of the bill. It's overbroad, and we think it may have consequences far beyond addressing the behavior and practices that it's intended to address. So we are voting against it, and sadly, we tried to amend the bill yesterday with language taken directly from a closely related bill. The amendment was rejected. It would have strengthened the bill. It would have allowed it to achieve the purpose for which it was drafted initially, without kind of leading to this expansive government, risky ambiguity that's presently in the bill. Senator Hughes, I wish you'd accepted the amendment, and then we all would have voted for this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator West, what purpose?
Just a statement. Senator Hughes, I supported this bill yesterday and got several calls. One of the questions was if someone wears a kilt, you know, the kilts that Scottish people wear, and they turned around and were at the library and they were reading, would they run afoul of this particular bill?
I can answer.
Senator Hughes?
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, they would not. In the situation you described, they would not be implicated under the drafting of this bill.
Okay, but there would be a man and they would be in a dress.
Well, Senator, a kilt is...
Kilt, that's a kilt.
No, I'm not correcting you. I just want to make sure I'm tracking with you. Those are worn by men, like those guys that play bagpipes and stuff, if that's what we're talking about.
Right.
Yes, sir. Those are not men who are dressing or trying to dress like women. That's what those men wear. That's part of that custom. If I'm following you correctly.
And so that would be what you'd say if that would be what you would say if that situation occurred.
That's correct.
The author of the bill. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good question. Thank you.
Senator Hinojosa, what purpose?
Just to ask that the statement made by Senator Johnson on the Senate Bill 1601 be reduced to writing.
Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is adopted. Senator Hughes, you're recognized on final.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, in a moment I'm going to move final passage. If you'll just indulge me, it's always good for us to try to work together and try to accept amendments. I think we agree that we will not sacrifice the effectiveness of a bill just to achieve unanimity. We'll agree when we can, but when we can't, we take a vote, and that's what we do. And so, again, Drag Queen Story Hour, according to the website of this organization, these events at libraries that have been hosted and are hosted at Texas public libraries for children ages 3 to 11. And I'm going to quote what they say. They are to capture the imagination and play of gender fluidity of childhood. And I could go on. That's what we're talking about. Let's don't be confused about what this bill is about. And so to be clear, what conduct is covered? To be affected by this bill, a library must host an event at which a person presenting as the opposite sex reads to a minor, and being dressed as the opposite sex is a primary component of the entertainment. Very clear. Everybody knows what this means and what this is about. And so with that, I move final passage, Senate Bill 1601.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton.
19 ayes, 10 nays, 2 present not voting. The bill is finally passed. Thank you, Senator.